Hello. So the school that I'm doing my student teaching and observation hours at is Bonita High School, which is located in Laverne, California, right down the street from where we are. The school has almost 2,000 students, and interestingly enough, it has sort of a white reputation, but it's actually pretty diverse in a way. 975 of the students that attend Bonita High School identify as Hispanic or Latino. So that's about half. The rest of the students are, let's see, so 650 of the rest of the students identify as white, 102 of the students identify as Asian, 61 identify as African American, 107 identify as two or more races, and then the remainder identify as Filipino or have chosen not to respond. And I believe that there were 2 Alaska Native students as well. The teacher that I observed is Julie Jager. She teaches 10th grade honors and 11th grade regular English. She has a very traditional classroom setup with rows of desks facing one another. Her desk is in the back of the classroom. She has been teaching for 20 years. She's a female, obviously. And in her honors class, there are more females than males. And then in 11th grade English, it's a pretty even mixture of students. Although sometimes the males are more outspoken than the females. And so the lesson that I taught was for the 10th grade honor students. I gave the students a simplified copy of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And before we looked at the document, we watched a short video that gave background information on the Declaration, which kind of was really relevant because the book that they were reading previously was Night, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was written after the Holocaust, in response to the Holocaust. And the students wanted to talk about the Syrian refugee crisis. And so I thought it tied it in nicely because you had the violations of the Holocaust, the violations that are currently occurring with the Syrian refugee crisis, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that was supposed to solve these issues, but as we can see, still has quite a way to go. And so both periods, I presented a lesson for first and second period, which are both honors English, and both of them really seemed to enjoy the video. However, once we got further into the lesson, there was quite a disconnect for period 2, I believe. Period 1 and 2 varied greatly with their responses during the discussion portion specifically. So I had the students get into pairs. They summarized the declaration in their pairs with just simple words, simple passages that they could remember, so that in the future these are some of the things that they can come back to and kind of reference. And then after they summarized it, I had them come up with examples of violations of the articles of the declarations, as many as they could relating to the novel Night, and then any that they could think of that are currently occurring for the Syrian refugee crisis. And I let them know that later we would be sharing these violations with the class, along with a discussion of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and how kind of we feel about it. I had a set of questions that were going to aid discussion that I gave to both class periods, and I let them know that once they were done with their violations, they should answer these questions so that way they're prepared for discussion. So period 1 really grasped the lesson, and they were open during discussion, and they were ready to talk, and they were willing to talk, and they had opinions that they made known. Whereas period 2 seemed half asleep, very distracted, as if they had brought in all of their negative experiences that they've been having in their lives, I suppose. I'm not really sure because none of them were really talking. And so it was just kind of difficult to get them interested in the lesson. So when I came up with these lessons, I had asked students from period 1 what they would be interested in, which is where I got the Syrian refugee crisis answer. So it makes sense that they were interested and willing to discuss and willing to learn with us. Period 2, however, seemed to be completely uninterested in the Syrian refugee crisis. It felt like I was pulling teeth with them almost. So after posing the questions to them, I would get blank stares. Even though I know that when I walked around, I saw that they had answers written down, that they had thoughts and opinions on it, they were unwilling to share. And so this was very frustrating for me because I had such success in period 1 that I thought that period 2 would be a breeze, but it was quite the opposite. So after the lessons were done, I kind of shared my frustrations with my teacher, my master's teacher, and she told me that in order to solve this dilemma, she's met this dilemma many times. I need to call on individual students by name. Don't move on when the students are kind of thinking about it or processing or choosing not to answer. Give them some wait time. Let there be an uncomfortable silence for as long as it needs to be. And if the student really is struggling, to kind of help them get there. Don't give them the answer, but kind of guide them and see if they can get it. And then also just continue until I have a class discussion that I think is worthy. So I just thought it was very interesting how one set of students can be totally different from another set of students, and how one thing that's interesting to period 1 was not interesting to period 2. Teaching this lesson taught me that class periods can have very different interests, and what's culturally relevant to one set of students might not be culturally relevant to other students. So as a teacher, I need to learn how to adapt my lesson quickly within the span of 5 minutes if I realize that they're disinterested, and to really help ensure that all the students are learning to their full potential. Because if I have students that are uninterested, they're not learning. They don't care. And so I really need to work on that, I think.